TYPO3 association around since 2004, supports the development of TYPO3, transparency and efficiency of the work in the community by providing all the infrastructure that you need. And it has currently 1,000 members that can be single persons, that can be businesses, and really ensures the future existence of TYPO3. It also takes care of legal problems. I mean, that's also something that of course just comes up if you become a bigger community and a bigger product. At some point you will have legal issues about the brand name, about the logo, all that needs to be taken care of by someone. So that's also something that TYPO3 Association takes care of. And as I said, you can be a member too. There are 4 membership levels, and of course the membership prices grow, but also the opportunities grow. You get free tickets for events, so that's something you can look at if you start using TYPO3. And it's not only for agencies using TYPO3, but we also have a few end users. So if you have a big end user using TYPO3, it is of course nice to have them join the association at some point. The events I talked about, by now we have quite a lot of events in the TYPO3 world. Very few official events that are directly organized by the association, which are the TYPO3 conference every year that I just come from, that was in Berlin the last 3 days. And then the T3 board, the snowboard tour I talked about, and the developer days that also happen every year in summer that are specifically for developers, by developers basically. And if you work with TYPO3, send your developers there. It's the place to learn from other developers. Basically all the core developers of all the products are there, working together, and people to also work on it. And by working on the project itself, you learn a lot about all those products. It's the best way to learn it from the people that do the work. Events can look like this. This is more the developer days style, very informal, people sitting together, hacking together. Also all the code sprints I talked about that are organized mostly by the developer teams themselves happen in this style. And then of course the conference looks more like this. It's dedicated more for businesses. So there it's about the future trends, about the current development on a higher level, about insights that were gained, case studies, so you gain a lot of information, what the future will bring for TYPO3 and the products. So it's a really different format between the events you have. And we have international events. We had a San Francisco North American conference last year and the years before in other parts of North America. This year, unfortunately, there was no North America event, but maybe next year again. 2012, we had a conference in Asia, and that will happen again next year. In between, there was a pause, but it will happen next year again, and probably start off from then to be more regularly. Then we have East Europe event in Romania as well, and it's really growing by now. We visited a few events in Africa and maybe hope to do something in Africa as well at some point. And the bar camps themselves are around Europe basically. There is the Italy bar camp that you've seen already, and there is one in lots of places in Germany. There is one in Netherlands. There's one in France. France also has a dedicated separate event beside the bar camp. Poland has a conference at the bar camp, so there's quite a lot of things happening if you want to take part in something. The snowboard tour I talked about, and there's also a sailing tour organized by a few community members that are interested in sailing. All these events you can join to find your way of joining the community, of learning and meeting people. So let's talk a bit in detail about the products we have, because that's the most interesting part and the part you want to hear about and learn about. You have heard a lot about TYPO3, that is now TYPO3 CMS basically, the enterprise class open source content management system, around since 1999. And the one major thing that people that don't know TYPO3 say about it or tell me, it's complex. But in fact, there's always a trade-off, because if you want to be flexible, then you need some complexity. And TYPO3 is very flexible. I think you have seen that today. I followed the last talk, and at least there you had some ideas about the flexibility. So you can do really a lot with TYPO3, and I haven't seen any project that you would basically say that is not possible with TYPO3 in some way. And this flexibility makes it necessary to be a bit complex. It is true that over time, that's again a reason why after so long development you maybe want to have something new at some point, but after long development things get complicated, of course, because you add new stuff, you don't remove old stuff because you don't want to break backwards compatibility for people that have older projects, and so you basically add more and more stuff, and then it gets complicated at some point. That's another reason why it is complicated. And it is complicated for newcomers. I won't deny that, but it's worth to learn it, because after that you gain all the flexibility. It's always a question if you need it, but it's really worth it. So it's about organizing content. TYPO3 CMS is really good at organizing content. You have a very clear overview of your content and the structure of your content. You have the page tree to organize the page itself and the menus, and inside you also have a structure of your content elements. So that's one of the main things about TYPO3. You always have a clear overview of how your content is structured, how your website is structured, and you can work with that. Then managing access is another really big topic in TYPO3. You have very fine-grained access controls in TYPO3, and I guess you can create all kinds of control systems if you need to cut down your editors to specific parts of the website. It will work with TYPO3. I have seen crazy projects with thousands of users that have really specific access to maybe even just one content element on one page, because they are just responsible for that area of the website, like in universities where you have lots of different departments. That works with TYPO3, and is really a big part of why TYPO3 for bigger websites is really good choice. And then besides structuring your content, but organizing your content, you can structure data in general. You can structure news that you've heard about. You can structure products, you can structure categories. Whatever comes to your mind, TYPO3 offers you a way to structure it and to edit it in an interface that is, for the editor, always similar. Of course, it depends on the type of data, how it looks like in detail, but the structure of the editing is always similar. So that's really a big part. You can structure your data, organize your data. And another thing that you've also seen in the example projects I showed you, TYPO3 is very good at building international websites. So it's multi-language, you can build multi-language websites very easily, but not only about the front end, you can create as many languages for the front end as you need, but there are over 50 translations available for the back end of the system. So wherever your editors come from worldwide, they probably can work with TYPO3, because there will be some translation available that they can understand. And additionally to all that, TYPO3 has a very open extension system to add functionality to the core system. And you have seen a few extensions, at least in the talk before, and probably also in the other parts. And there are over 6,000 extensions available. Probably not all of them available for the latest version of TYPO3, but that's depending on your needs. But those extensions are all for free. They are available for download and for adapting to your needs. You can download them, adapt them. They are GPL as well. You can update them if they don't match the current version. So it's really a lot what has been done there, not only on the core, but also in terms of adding functionality. And those extensions, there is all kinds of stuff in there, from the lightbox that you need for marketing reasons, up to the LDAP authentication for the enterprise level website that needs to communicate with the Microsoft server in-house, for example. So there's really a broad area of extensions available that you can use for your projects. And the extension system is well explained and documented, so you can of course create your own extensions and build the functionality you need. And TYPO3 CMS is worked on by a great developer team that is of course changing over time, but it's really a big team, so you can be sure that this will be developed further, and there are plans for the future already. This is basically an outdated plan already, but it shows a bit how you go from long-term to long-term 6.2. That's where we are now. Here's the 6.3 planned, but actually it seems that the team will jump over 6.3 and directly develop a 7.0 and go from 7.0, which will be again a long-term support version, to the next version, which again will be a long-term support version. So you will gain lots of long-term support for the future there. Okay, that's about TYPO3 CMS that you've already seen today in very different aspects and ideas. Now I want to talk about the newer projects of the TYPO3 project. And one of them is Flow, which, as I said, a web application framework. And if you hear web application framework and are into that area, then you probably have heard of Symfony 2, which is probably the main used framework around today in PHP. And in fact, we started to develop it earlier than Symfony 2. And our release was almost at the same time than Symfony 2. Symfony 2 could attract a lot more attention by now. But our main reason to build this framework was not to create a framework, but to have a solid base for the next generation content management system to build on top. Because today, websites grow more complex, you have more interactive functionalities, and that means you need to develop more custom code for websites, more custom PHP code, more custom application code. And for that you need a stable base to build on. So you need some kind of application framework to work with. And the main concerns we had in mind for Flow are really the developer happiness. We are all developers, and we wanted to take care that developers working with Flow have a good time. They have fun working, they like to work, and they get good results in a short time.